The noise wasn't stopping. In fact, it was getting louder. They had no idea who was in the coffin, but they wanted out, and they wanted out now. They had no idea what they were supposed to do. Without a passcode, it didn't seem like there was a lot they could do. They couldn't even tell how many numbers the passcode needed to be.
Isn't there a hint somewhere?
Well, let's look for one.
Unfortunately, there didn't seem to be anything near the coffin. Clover ran to examine the pews, and Seven investigated the desk, but they turned up nothing. The sound still wouldn't stop. It wasn't a noise that belonged in that room. What was the passcode? What was Junpei supposed to do? How was he supposed to figure it out? He needed something. The world blinked. Suddenly there was a voice inside of Junpei's head.
Truth had gone, and truth had gone. Ah, now truth is asleep in the darkness of a sinister hand.
What the hell was that? That voice.
Junpei was utterly and completely baffled.
Huh? What are you talking about?
What's up?
Seven and Clover ran over to him, but Junpei didn't know what to tell them. If he told them he'd heard a voice, they'd laugh, or worse, think he was going insane. So all he said was,
Nothing.
He cleared his throat a little too loud and looked pointedly down at his bracelet. There were a pair of small buttons protruding from either side of it. Junpei pressed the buttons on the bracelet. Right, left, right, left, right, left. Right, left, right, left, right, left. That was it. Eight numbers blinked on then off on the bracelet display. Junpei checked one last time. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1.
14383421.
Huh?
Huh?
Hey, what the hell were those numbers?
Oh my gosh. Are those?
Junpei didn't answer. He simply walked straight to the coffin. He knelt down in front of the keypad, running over the numbers in his head so that he wouldn't forget. 14383421. 14383421. With trembling fingers, he punched them in. 14383421. That was all of them. He punched in the E button. There was a moment of complete silence. Then there was the sound of the coffin lid unlatching. Someone sat up out of it.
Oh, is that you, Clover? I apologize for worrying you.
Snake!
Oh my. How did you...
Junpei. And Seven? Is that you? Is everyone else there as well?
Just like Rip Van Winkle. Still, it was very much like Snake to simply cut to the heart of the matter and ask. Junpei and Seven shared a wry smile. Clover's eyes were filled with tears.
You're back!
With a cry of joy, she leapt into Snake's arms.
Gently now. My body's still a little weak.
You're back! You're back!
Clover looked like nothing so much as a lost child who'd finally found her home. She cried and cried and cried. Her eyes were red and her nose was running. She hiccuped and gasped as if she were about to begin hyperventilating.
You're back. You're really here.
Her voice was happy, but almost desperate, as if she feared he would disappear again if she stopped talking to him. Tears after tremendous tear rolled its way down her face. Her small arms strained as she clutched Snake's body as tightly as she could. Perhaps she had to convince herself he was real. Perhaps she was worried he would be gone the moment she let go. Perhaps she simply didn't know what else to do.
Oh, you're back.
Come now. What's gotten into you? You're acting as though I've returned from the grave.
Not as though you did! I really thought you were dead.
Huh?
You jerk! Idiot, idiot, idiot!
Clover broke into sobs so great she could no longer talk. It was a touching reunion between brother and sister. Even though Junpei knew they had little time and every minute they waited was a minute they wasted, it felt cruel to pull them apart. Junpei and Seven sat down on one of the pews, waiting for Clover to calm down before explaining to Snake what had transpired.
I see. I believe I understand things rather well now. Thank you. In the shower room, there is a dead body wearing my clothes. Because of that, you thought that I was dead. Correct?
He had quickly and neatly summarized the events of several hours. Junpei nodded.
You also discovered a corpse in the captain's quarters, and Santa turned on you here, in this room. Do I have it straight?
Seven had been rather surprised to learn of the dead body in the captain's quarters. With everything that had taken place, Junpei had simply forgotten to mention it to him.
Well then, I've got a pretty decent idea of what happened while I was indisposed, but it's still something of a mystery who did all this, and why. The corpse in the shower room that looked like me, and the corpse in the captain's quarters. Why were they killed in the way they were?
You don't know?
No? Why would I?
The guy in the shower room. We don't know who he is, so let's just call him Mr. X. Anyways, this Mr. X is wearing Snake's clothes, but you're wearing some kind of weird robes. That means someone took your clothes and put them on Mr. X. We need to figure out who that was.
I apologize, but I have no idea who might have done this to me. I only just now woke up. I was unconscious during all the events you just described to me. They must have undressed me and changed my clothes during that time.
When were you knocked out?
When we split up to look for the red.
Where did they get you? Do you remember?
It was a small room in one of the hallways on C deck.
What happened?
That same thing that happened to every one of us when we were abducted. A can releasing some sort of gas was thrown into the room. I believe the gas is some sort of incapacitating agent.
Then that means it was...
0.
Looks that way, huh?
There's nothing else I have to tell you. When I woke up, I was in this coffin.
Junpei crossed his arms and thought. Why had Zero made Mr. X wear Snake's clothes? How had the results of the trick benefited Zero? It was a mystery. Junpei couldn't make sense of it. He also didn't have a satisfactory explanation for how he discerned the key code for the coffin. It just didn't make sense. Truth had gone, and truth had gone. What did that mean? Did it mean anything? And why had Junpei felt compelled to push the buttons on the bracelet after hearing them? Seven had asked him about it while they waited for Clover to finish crying. He'd had no answer for him then, and he still didn't. All he could say was that it seemed to have been a subconscious reaction. His fingers had simply moved of their own accord. It was the only explanation that made any sort of sense, and it made almost no sense. Junpei had no idea what any of it meant. His mind was a maelstrom of mysteries, clues, theories, and more mysteries. He could barely think. And of course, Snake and Clover had been subjects in a similar experiment 9 years ago.
The ability to access the morphogenic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. And someone did actually die. A girl. Her name was...
There had been another experiment conducted on the same ship 9 years ago. A girl had died during it. Morphogenic field theory. The 2 murders. Switching clothes. The nonnery game. And whatever strange thing was happening to Junpei himself. A maelstrom in his head spat out words and ideas that disappeared into it almost as soon as he grasped them. But as he struggled through them, Junpei began to realize something. There was something that tied all of them together. Zero. He was the ringleader, the person who had trapped 9 people on a sinking ship. Zero knew everything. If they could uncover Zero's identity, all of their questions would be answered. Who was Zero? Junpei had the beginnings of a theory. If he could only test it. Or perhaps...
At any rate, we'll have plenty of time to decipher the details later. For now, it is of the utmost importance that we escape. Junpei, it was 4:30 the last time you checked the clock, yes? That means we have less than an hour. We must hurry.
Hey, how are we gonna get out of here?
Isn't that obvious? Through the other number 9 door.
Five plus 4 plus 7 plus 2 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. With Snake, we can open the door.
Don't tell me you hadn't figured that out.
As they sniped back and forth, Junpei glanced at Snake's left hand. He was wearing a bracelet with a 2 on it.
Come on, you gotta tell me these things.
I'd, assumed you'd figured it out.
Nah, forget it. Let's just get going.
7 stomped off toward the smaller number 9 door. Clover, Snake, and Junpei followed. 7 quickly laid his hand on the red. An asterisk appeared on the screen. Junpei and the others followed suit and laid their hands on the scanner panel. Soon there were 4 asterisks on the screen. 7 glanced at them, then laid his hand on the lever of the red.
All right. You guys ready to go?
Yes.
Yep.
Junpei paused for a moment.
Not yet.
Huh?
Before we go in, I'd like to check something.
You want to check something?
Yeah, but before I do... 7, could you pull the lever? I want to make sure we can verify with just the 4 of us.
What do you mean? We don't need...
Just do it, alright? But if the door opens, don't go in yet, okay? Please. This is really important. I really need to check this, okay? Work with me here.
Junpei looked directly into Seven's eyes. The older man looked back for a moment, then nodded.
Fine.
Seven pulled down on the lever and door 9 creaked open. Then they waited. 6, 7, 8. After 9 seconds, the door closed.
Alright, that means the 4 of us can go into door 9.
So, we knew that already. It's obvious.
Obvious. Yeah, you're right. It is. Now, what happens if we add Zero's bracelet?
What?
Zero's bracelet?
Why don't you take it out, Clover?
For a moment, Clover looked surprised, but she recovered quickly and stuck her tongue out at Junpei.
So you did know I had it. I picked it up because I thought it might be useful sometime.
She reached into one of the pockets of her voluminous jacket and produced a bracelet. Junpei took it from her and turned to Seven.
This was in the left hand of the corpse in the captain's quarters. If you look at it, you can see it's got a 0 on the face. Just to make things easier to talk about, I'm gonna call the guy we found dead in the captain's quarters Cap. If Cap really was 0, then I should be able to open door 9 with just me, Clover, and its bracelet.
5 plus 4 plus 0 equals 9.
But more importantly, if you were Cap and this was your game, would you really put one of these bracelets on yourself? Anyway, let's just give it a shot. Clover, give me your hand.
Okay.
After he and Clover scanned their bracelets, he waved caps over the scanner panel. Then he pulled the lever. However, the door didn't open. The red display read error.
I knew it. Now, what does this tell us?
Maybe the bracelets have to be on your wrists in order for it to work?
No, that's impossible. Did you see how the panel showed a 3rd asterisk when I scanned Cap's bracelet? Whether or not it's on your wrist doesn't matter. All you have to do is put the bracelet near the panel for it to register.
Seven waved his bracelet in front of the scanner panel. Sure enough, a single asterisk appeared on the red.
Looks like you're right.
See? So what does that mean? There's only one possibility.
That bracelet isn't the number 0. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Then, what number is it?
Let's find out.
Junpei. Scan the bracelet with this combination. 10, 11, 12. Nope, that's... let's go with that. 7 plus Junpei plus Cap. 7 plus Junpei equals 7 plus 5 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. If this combination opened the door, then Cap's bracelet was number 6.
Hey! It opened. The door opened.
What? Why? What does that mean?
Both 7 and Clover seemed rather shaken, as they turned to look at Junpei for answers. The door slid heavily shut. Junpei raised an eyebrow.
Isn't it obvious? Cap's bracelet is number 6.
7 plus 5 plus 6 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9.
But doesn't it say 0?
This isn't a 0. The symbol on here isn't a number 0. It's a letter O.
Oh.
Oh, wait a minute! I don't get it. I mean, we figured out that Cap's bracelet is 6, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean there are 2 people with 6s?
Before Junpei could answer, Snake spoke up.
There is, most likely, only one person with a 6.
But... I don't get it. What about June?
Well, this is only an educated guess, but I think June's number was never 6 to begin with. Her bracelet was flipped. In other words, June's real number is
9.
That seems the most likely.
Then all this numbered door stuff was just a load of crap?
Why would you say that?
Because! If June is 9, then the numbers wouldn't match up.
Clover grabbed Junpei's notebook and began to write furiously in it. Junpei leaned over to look at it. List of all the numbered doors June's gone through. Clover read each row out loud so that Snake could follow along.
Alright, I made a list of all the numbered doors that June has gone through so far. I wrote down which door she went into and with who. And I wrote what all the numbers were. So if you switch 9 in wherever there's a 6, the numbers don't work. If the digital root is 7, then you can't open door 4. If the digital root is 2, then you can't open door 8.
Clover, do you notice anything interesting on that list?
What do you mean?
You're talking about 3, right?
3?
Santa's always in the room with her. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
What about it?
That's quite simple, really. You told me that the first time you came to this room, Santa was the first to refuse to leave June behind. Now, doesn't that beg the question, why? Why would Santa do such a thing? The answer is easy. Because Santa can't open door 9 with only 7 and Lotus. Of course, there's only one reason for that. His number isn't actually 3. Santa's real number... 7, would you be so kind as to modify my sister's equations?
Yeah, sure. This is what you're getting at, right, Snake?
He read out the changes he'd made. When he finished, he looked at Snake. Snake smiled.
Thank you. That is exactly right, 7. Santa's true number wasn't 3. It was 0.
No way. Santa is 0?
And June was 9, not 6. On the contrary, Santa was 0, not 3. Positive 3 and negative 3. They cancel one another out. Nothing appears out of order.
That means even though he set the whole damn thing up, Santa was still playing by the rules of the nonary game the whole time.
Precisely.
So you're saying Santa planned this whole thing?
I'm not sure if he acted alone or not. But I think it is safe to conclude that he is 0. If my hypothesis is correct.
Clover bit her lip. She seemed to be having some difficulty believing her brother's explanation. Junpei remained silent in thought. Snake's hypothesis didn't satisfy him. June's bracelet was flipped. Even if that were possible, then there would have been 2 number 9 bracelets. And if that were the case...
All right, that's enough talking. Let's go. It's high time we went through that door.
Door 9 open. They leapt through. The dead was directly in front of them as they came through the door. Quickly they scanned their bracelets. And the detonator stopped.
Phew.
After pausing for a moment to catch their collective breath, Junpei and his companions headed down the long hallway in front of them. At the end was a set of stairs leading down to the ship. It looked as though they led all the way to the bottom deck. They looked down. It didn't seem to be flooded. After deciding it was safe, they headed down the stairs. Before long, Junpei and his companions found themselves on the bottom deck. They turned left into another hallway, at the end of which they found another door. And of course, there was a symbol engraved over the keyhole. It looked like the sort of harpoon one would use to hunt fish, the kind with 3 prongs. Snake traced the shape of it with his fingers.
This is the Neptune symbol. There must be a key around here somewhere.
Neptune key. All Junpei had was a Uranus key card. Not the same planet, and not even the same sort of key. Clearly, it wasn't going to open this door. After examining the door for a few minutes, they gave up and headed back the way they came. With a little more searching, they found a metal door. To the side of it was a card reader. A symbol was engraved into the card reader. It matched the Uranus symbol on the key card Junpei was carrying.
This is the place.
He muttered to himself and slid the card through the reader. It beeped once, and the light on it turned green. With a heavy metal groan, the door creaked open.